You just had your supersonic flight. Congratulations. The test flight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just so what's going on? How far are you from actually launching?
About 4 years from carrying passengers. Our goal is first passenger on board by the end of 29. So it's not that far away. And to you just concretize where we are right now, we've built and flown the first ever supersonic jet outside of a government or military. Like I think I asked ChatGPT a few weeks ago, which governments have made supersonic jets? And ChatGPT is like, here are the 7 governments that have done it. But there's an 8th that's not a government. It's called Boom.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was like, I love you, ChatGPT. But yeah, so it's the first supersonic jet outside of a government or military. It is the first civil supersonic jet made in America. It's the first one since Concorde. And it's the first one made out of airliner technology. So we basically took 20-year-old proven 787, Boeing 787 level technology. And we said, let's go build a supersonic jet that is safe enough to put a person on, that it can break the sound barrier, and learn 100% of what it takes to actually do that. Technically, team, management wise. And then we can take it and scale up. And so that's where we are now. We've broken the sound barrier. We've done it on 2 flights. We've broken the sound barrier 6 times. We did it all 6 times without any audible sonic boom. And now it's time to take all those lessons, scale it up, and build the airplane that you and I can fly on.
And also the legal ban, right?
Yeah, we have. So we actually started the company with the assumption no new technology and no change in regulations, because otherwise it would just be like way too much for a startup to take on. And so our assumption was that we would not solve the sonic boom problem. We wouldn't solve it technically, and we wouldn't solve it politically, at least not for version 1. But it turned out as we got down path, there was a technical solution. And it wasn't even that hard. Like the problem was described as way more difficult than it actually is. And now when I look at the administration we have today and how the political climate has shifted in the last 12 months, like I'm very confident that the supersonic ban over the continental U.S. is going to be lifted.
But then you will have to work with other governments as well, because
What's actually worse in the U.S. than it is elsewhere. U.S. and Canada have an outright supersonic ban. It doesn't exist everywhere. The rules are a little bit different in the rest of the world. And I think the reason is that Concorde was a European project, and there was an American competitor, which got canceled. And only after the American competitor was canceled, it was like, oh, we can't have this sonic stuff. So I think the actual, many times regulations have like a moral cover story.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we have to do this because sonic booms are bad, or this is to protect children, or whatever. But then the real reality is it's to protect Boeing.
Yeah.
But no one wants to say that out loud.
Okay.
So they invent that, they just tell everybody booms are bad, and that's why we have to have the regulation. But it was a speed limit, like literally 14 CFR 91.817 says thou shalt not exceed Mach 1.
And that's can you
the speed of sound. Mach 1 is the speed of sound.
Okay.
It's a speed limit in the sky. And what it should say is thou shalt not make bad noises. It's real. I mean, it's a really, really stupid regulation. My suspicion is that the reason it's a speed limit, not a noise limit, because if it was a reasonable noise limit, a whole bunch of things would have passed.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll get that changed. And then we can fly coast to coast.
What are you hoping? How soon?
I don't know how to predict this, but
things are moving. Less than 4 years or more than 4 years, because you have.
Oh, I mean, it could be 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Like it's it could. We'll see, but it could happen very quickly.
Okay. Fingers crossed.
Fingers, toes, and eyes are crossed.
Awesome. I had another question about carbon emissions, because when I posted a story of your talk from that party, people were like, "But this is like 3x more carbon emissions than like a business class seat."
Yeah. So it's supersonic is more energy intensive, and we're designing around next generation sustainable aviation fuel, so that when enough of that is available, actually the carbon could potentially go all the way down to zero on synthetic fuel. But it is more energy intensive, and I think there's a big mindset question around this. Like and it's one of the reasons why we haven't had supersonic already is in the 70s, humanity shifted from an abundance mindset to a conservation mindset. And there's this amazing chart, like up until about 1970, there was an exponential increase, like a Moore's law of energy. Like energy per human is going up rapidly. Standard of living is going up rapidly. All kinds of new technologies are possible because we have energy abundance. including, by the way, things that make climate livable, like air conditioners and heaters.
Yeah.
And then the mindset shifted and it got into a conservation mindset. The exponential curve flattened and became a linear, like a small slope linear growth curve. So I think it's very, very important that we like plan for and create an energy abundance future and then find a way to do it that works out writ large for humanity and for the planet. And we can do that. And by the way, if you look back at the history of energy, it shows it over and over again. At some point, somebody invented fire or discovered it.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, but fire has, it has the obvious pro, we don't freeze. And it has these cons, like it's actually not super healthy to bring in breathe the smoke, right? Oh, okay. So now we invent the log cabin and the pot-bellied stove, and we put the fire in the stove, and there's a smokestack, and like, okay, that's much, much better. It's much healthier. It's much better for our environment. My point is, every generation of technology has pros and cons. And as you go from generation to generation, you can increase the pros and decrease the cons. And that's the story of why, like, we're not in the cave anymore. And so I think that's where we have to go with energy and supersonic jets. And it's okay to use more energy. It's a good thing to use more energy. Let's figure out how to have more abundant, reliable, cheap energy, and let's minimize the downsides. And let's, if there's like too much carbon, great. Let's figure out how to synthesize jet fuel. Let's figure out how to synthesize it more affordably than you can pump it out of the ground. And there's good work happening on that. It's difficult to do, but it's progressing.
Yeah. So that gives me hope. What do you think would be the cost for the average person?
Yeah. So our ultimate goal is to make supersonic flight attainable for anybody. But there's a question of where do we start? And Concorde, marvelous technical accomplishment, but like we talk in the Valley about product market fit, and this is a great example of something that never had product market fit. There were 100 seats on the airplane. They're really uncomfortable. Like we have some Concorde seats in our office, you might think they came out of like the back of a Ryanair or Southwest jet. It was really small, and yet it's $20,000 a ticket. And so Concorde was for like rock stars and royalty. And especially with 70s, 80s.
And back in the day, $20,000 back in the day, that was...
Well, that's adjusted for inflation, but it's still a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like who wants to pay $20,000 to go somewhere really fast? Well, it's not nobody, but it's rock stars and royalty.
Exactly.
And it only kind of works on a couple of routes because you can't fill 100 seats.
Yeah.
And so with that was kind of no man's land. And then Overture 1 is like the Model S of supersonic jets. It's not for everybody, but it's for a whole lot of people. And so the fares will be like business class. So I think like $5,000 round trip would be a typical fare.
It's going to be a nice seat.
Be a nice seat.
Lie flat.
Well, not lie flat. Because that was the whole
you
unlock.
You
don't need a lie flat bed for a 3 or 4 hour flight.
So it's going to be 3 to 4 hours from New York to London, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fascinating.
But also just not just New York to London, Miami, Madrid, and Seattle to Tokyo, and DC to Paris.
That's in 4 years,
right?
or this is like a...
It will all be possible in about 4 years.